to the Global Equipping Center Executive Coaching Program. This is a very dynamic session, and I hope that you're ready to discuss the challenges between management and leadership. Many times when you read different books, you find that theorists have different perspectives and different concepts when it comes to management or leadership. And many times people confuse the two, and they believe that they're one and the same. Now, if you're in a large multi-billion-dollar corporation and you're actually in a upper management role, what you're going to find is many times they are very specific in what they're doing and what they're accomplishing. But if you're a one-person entrepreneur, unfortunately for you, you're actually everything. And you have to be a full-time manager and a full-time leader. And what that means is you're going to find that in one of these roles, you get excited, you're motivated in, and therefore you are driven to propel your business in that area. However, the other one you may find yourself drains you. And you say, why am I doing this business? Because this side of what I do, I just can't stand. And many times when you find a business partner, if you find somebody who's just like you, the problem is that both of you are going to go in this other area here, accomplish all these exciting things, and all this part will fall by the wayside, and your business will not be well-rounded. And which one's better? Because many times when you read a book, you will hear people talk about that one of these is actually higher and better, and one is lower. And we're going to talk about some of the fallacies between theories, between leadership and management, and how can this directly apply to your revenue that you make in this next year. So let's talk about how to clarify this confusing dilemma. When you think about an overview of leadership, how do you know whether or not a person who is in the role of a leader is effective? What is your definition of a leader? And how do you know if you're a leader, whether or not you're accomplishing that definition? Do you know if you're in the role of a manager or not? What is your definition of a manager? You see, many times people have not asked these questions, and therefore they don't actually know if they've been successful in the past, or even if they're successful today. So what we're going to discuss in this 2 sessions, are you a leader or a manager, which are mutually exclusive based upon the definitions that we're going to be discussing. And then what happens if you actually are a leader and you're in a managerial role, or if you're a manager and you're in a leadership role? Because many times you might have conflicting titles and you're the wrong person in the wrong role, and you make everyone frustrated around you. And we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about some of the terminology and how that works, because sometimes if you have the wrong title, you'll try to become someone that you're not, and that'll frustrate you internally as well. What is the dilemma? There's 3 parts to the dilemma we're going to be looking at. Then we're going to have some reminders for our gold and platinum members of the executive coaching program, what we're expecting from you. And lastly, the conclusion. So let's get into some of these concepts. The clarification of your business role. Number 1, if you look at your notes on page 1, it says inside your circle is your responsibility. Inside your circle is your responsibility. So if you have a small company, then the size of your responsibility is small. But all of this is your responsibility. 100% of this circle is all your responsibility. So whatever happens from this sphere, you're responsible for. However, the larger that your business grows, the larger that the circle becomes. And then all of a sudden you feel more responsible, because now all of a sudden it's just not you by yourself. Now it's you and your team. When you look at the frustrations of being an entrepreneur, you ask yourself, what are all the things in this circle? Well, let's talk about them for a second. Right here, this is called marketing. You have marketing here, which means you're responsible to come up with the concepts of how you're going to let the marketplace know what you're doing. Then you have something right here called products. Your products are what you're going to be selling and how are you going to manufacture those. And then you have services. And you need to make sure that your services are of a high quality, or guess what happens? If the people come for your services and you don't deliver on your services, they won't come back. and they'll tell their family and friends not to use you as a company. And then you have to actually not just market, but now you have to sell. So you have to be good in sales as well. And then what you have to do is you have to develop policies and procedures. Because as you do business, you find out the things that are working and the things that aren't working, and you have to fix them. And then what you have to do is you have to do staff training. So now all of a sudden, you have to train the people, oh, by the way, that you hired. You are now in the hiring place. And by the time you do all the circles of finding funding and all these things, you're going to find that you get frustrated with your own organization because of all the things that you're doing, that you are responsible for as the business owner. You can say the same thing as an executive. If you're an executive and you're in a role in a large corporation, you're going to feel at times that you're overwhelmed, especially if some of these areas have not been delegated to other employees of the organization to do what they're called to do. What happens when you get a big organization and you're responsible? This is when you start losing sleep at night. And if you don't hire the correct people, what happens is this all gets filled with circles. And the size of your company gets larger and you feel more responsible. And many people have health problems when they get a larger organization because the stress of the responsibility is so heavily upon them. So, what's the size of your organization is the size of your responsibility. If you get a big contract, and this was the size that you had last year and you doubled because of one contract, your responsibility doubled. And that's why there's sleeping pills. Number 2, the essence of a manager or leader is integrity. That's your second fill-in, is integrity. It's not just that you're responsible with all that you've been given and all that you're developing. It's the way in which you accomplish all of these different circles. So, if this is the size of your organization that you're responsible, how you actually hire people, how you train them, how you find the funding, how you market and sell, all these things, this is your integrity. And this is the strength of who you are. The strength of who you are is this, do the people that work with you as a part of a team, do they say, I'm so thankful that I'm working for this company? Are they thankful and have gratitude for working inside the company? Do your customers outside of the company, when they walk into your company, say this is a company of excellence? Therefore, when a person is actually accomplishing all of these areas with excellence, they feel that they have a great company to work for. And other people will say the same. Now, number 3 is behind your position is your personality. Now, this is really important. When we talk about DISC analysis, we talk about the 4 different personality types. And every client that joins our coaching program fills out the DISC analysis online that allows us to know what their personality is. Behind here, all of this is who you are as a person. And once you know if you're a dominant, influencer, or steady or cautious person, what you'll find is certain ones of these areas that you are currently fulfilling, you know you love to do. And you can do with excellence because it's who you are as a person. So your personality will draw out the very areas that you feel you're most talented and that you're excited about because of who you are as a person. And guess what? All of the other areas that you do not feel led to do, that you feel drained when you think about even accomplishing the task, those are the tasks that you need to find somebody else in your organization to fulfill. So if you're a leader, you're going to find that you gravitate most to, because of your personality, certain areas that you're excellent with. And there are other people that if they're a manager, they will find other areas that they're most able to accomplish. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this session. So, what is the issue of management and leadership, and why is it so important? If you have a little company, if you mess up with the company, it affects only you. But as you grow the company, you hire more staff. And if you don't understand the different roles between management or leadership, then what happens is people begin to actually do each other's job descriptions without even knowing it, and then it becomes blurred. And once it's blurred, then how do you know whether or not you've been effective as a manager or leader if it's blurred between you and someone else. So the concept is this. If you know who you are as a person, and you know which ones of these you're supposed to be doing, then the other ones you delegate to other people because you hire them. That they're excellent with doing that, and therefore your company becomes an excellent company. It's when you don't know who you are, and you don't know who your team is, that you're frustrated because you say, I feel like we're all over the place and we're not accomplishing anything. And this happens to many companies as they go from a small company to an intermediate company. Established organizations have very clear lines dividing the tasks and the people. So therefore, when somebody says, here is my job description, here's my list of duties, here's the contract I have, it's because of that that they know exactly what they're supposed to be accomplishing. But in the beginning, nobody has a contract. Nobody has a job description. They don't even know what title they go by. They're just trying to make sure they don't go under financially. But the older you become as a company, the more clarity you need to gain, and you better get your job descriptions done. Otherwise, you can't hold people accountable to do something that they don't know they're supposed to do. When you think about how to find out who you really are as a person, we talked about that the best way to do this is called DISC, D-I-S-C, and you can research this online. The test that we take is www.123test.com. And we have all of our clients take this. It's a very simple, it's a free test, it's a free analysis. You can't fail it. And what you do, you just are honest while answering the questions. And what we've done is we've developed a one-day executive workshop. And that's called Increasing Your Performance by Unlocking Your Personality. And we talk about how to actually use your personality to unlock the keys for your success. There are 5 main topics that we talk about during this day. We talk about the 4 keys to understanding yourself and others, how to propel others to produce higher results by utilizing personality secrets, how to generate revenue by capturing your customers through innovative marketing, how to create a stress-free business environment through personality management, and lastly, how to unlock the key to wealth and relationships with your personality. So we have these workshops, and we ask people to come to those if they really want to maximize who they are in the marketplace. But here's the bottom line with your personality, is once you know who you are, then actually you can become a wonderful manager or a wonderful leader based upon who you are as a person. Rather than trying to fulfill a role, be the role. And then the people will follow you as you manage or lead them. You know, when it comes to personalities, we have found that this is one of the key secrets to double revenue in companies. I'll never forget, we had an amazing client. His name is Andrew. And Andrew was in charge of a safari, his safari tour guide with his own company. And what he said to us when he joined our coaching program is he said, you know what, I'm only able to close on 20% of the emails that he gets in. So what we talked to him about for months was how to discover the secrets about DISC personalities and how to discover in an email what personality type the person who's typing. And you know what happened? Over the next 2 years, we used this one tool and grew his closure rate from 20% to 80%. And his revenue by 400%. The reason why it is because people think that they're trying to sell a product or service, and they're not. You're trying to sell to a personality. And if you understand there's 4 personalities and they have 4 different languages, then actually you can motivate them very easily as a manager or a leader. So, which one are you? Are you a leader or are you a manager? So, once you look at your notes there, and you will find that there is actually a test that you can take. It's very simple. Just don't actually overanalyze it. I want you just to look at it. I'll just put 1 X, either yes or no. I save in order to have more money now. Is that true or is that not true? And just take a couple minutes, pause this DVD, and fill out the chart. Okay, by now, you should have, hopefully, a few X's on one side or the other. Okay, look at your notes. If you look at A, it says if you answered the questions 1, 3, 5, and 7 with a yes, you have a tendency toward management. So look down at number 1. Did you put a yes there? A 3, did you put a yes there? A 5 and a 7, do you have yeses under those 4? Then what's going to happen is some of you said, I didn't put a yes, I put a no on those. And therefore, if you put a yes, you have a tendency toward management. If you put a no, you have a tendency toward leadership. So you're going to take this home and think about this, because those are the answers for either yeses or nos. It's going to prove whether or not you lean toward management or leadership as an individual. Now, when I took this test, what I found was I had a 0 and a 4 and a 4 and a 0. And the reason why I did is because I have absolutely no bent in me toward management. It doesn't mean if you are a leader that you don't have some managerial skills. And it doesn't mean if you're a manager that you don't have some leadership skills. But it means that the primary function or the role that you're in, they're actually two separate different roles. And we're going to talk about what the definitions are and how does it work. But let's talk about what it looks like when you're actually frustrating people around you. Because many times people get frustrated if they're in the wrong role. I've been in the role of a manager before, and I wreaked havoc in the organization. I couldn't do anything that was required of me because it was completely in my weakness. And maybe you feel the same right now. You see, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing everything alone, then that means that probably 50% of what you do you can't stand, and 50% you love. And there's a tension that's created in the life of an individual that's living outside of what they're supposed to be doing, and it's just not your comfort zone. It's actually going away from who you were created to be. So let's talk about what poor management versus poor leadership looks like. So here's some management frustration. So I want you to imagine you're working in a major company, and the person who is in a managerial role is the wrong person. They're actually a leader, and they're trying to be a manager. Here's what some of the frustrations that you might have to deal with. Number one, a poor manager creates tension, which causes people and policy problems. Okay, so what are some of the truths about a manager? A manager is a person who actually creates policies in order to make things work more efficiently. That's who a great manager is at heart. They like it when people work together and everything flows easily. But if it's a leader in a managerial role, they're going to be all over the place because they're not good with policies, because usually they tend to lose things sometimes. And sometimes they can't find things that they once had, and then they make a policy, but then it wasn't a good policy because it was too open-ended, and then they broke their own policy and said it doesn't work. So here's some of the tension which is created when a person is in a wrong role. And number two, and this is a big one, this is if a manager is extremely stressed. They actually become incessant in their improvement. And what this happens is I don't want to say OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, but that's what it's like. It's like everything has to be done now, and it has to be done perfect, and if it's wrong, the person gets fired, and it's just black and white. And this is the inability to complete a policy, proposal, or a project. And that's because it constantly needs to be improved, or so the manager says. So here's what it is. There's a whole team of people, and here's a manager that's not doing well. And he says to the team, I want you to produce this product. And I want it done by this deadline, and I want it this color. And so the team does all those things, and it's actually perfect. But the manager comes and finds a whole bunch of things that needs to be fixed, needs to be upgraded, needs to be done. And no matter what the team does, it's never good enough. And that's because a manager is about improvement, but if they're in a danger zone, if they're really stressed out, they will constantly improve instead of moving forward in the project and taking on a new project. Number three is constant negativity, finding the 1% wrong instead of complimenting the 99% right. Now, if you're a manager, I know exactly how you feel. That in order to have integrity in the organization, everything needs to be done right. And I agree with you. That is what excellence looks like. But you know what? When somebody does something really well, you compliment them on what they did well first. You say, look at all the things that you did right. Look at all these amazing things. And you talk to the person about what they did right. Instead of finding the one thing that was wrong, because most managers, that's the first thing they see, is this person did something wrong. This needs to be fixed. That's the wrong color, or the wrong shade, or the wrong style, or whatever it may be. So if you're a manager, you're the same way with yourself. You are exactly like that to yourself. So here is a manager who is an entrepreneur. They will do 9 of these. A+. Couldn't be done better. I mean, it is excellent the way that a manager will manage their own organization. Except for this one right here. They failed in this one. So guess what the manager sees, and guess what they blame themselves. They will not see the 9 other things they did in an amazing way. They'll take the one thing that they failed in and will beat themselves over the head with what a failure I am. Look at, this is what they'll say, I'm failing as a company. I'm failing as a person. Instead of saying, in this area I'm failing, but look at all the areas of my success. Therefore, if you're a manager, my challenge to you is this. Remember, when you're over your red line and you're really stressed and you become very rigid, be careful not to criticize everyone around you and yourself, because you need to give some leniency and some encouragement to the people on your team. Now, what happens if actually you're in the role of a leader and you're actually a manager and you're wreaking havoc? Because there's some very poor leaders today that are actually in a role they should not be in. They're causing frustrations too. And here's the number one, is they create a directionless environment, which causes ambiguity and passivity issues. Okay, if a leader doesn't know where they're going, guess what they do? They push the vision stronger. So they're going to say this is where I want to go, and I'm going to push this vision stronger, and they go this direction. The problem is they usually have people following them. And when a leader isn't doing good, or a manager is in a leader's position, and you push really hard, guess what the leader will do if they're not in a good place? They will say this, we're going to do this, nothing's going to stand in our way, we're going in this direction. And as they go, they change their mind and say, you know what, I think I'll do that. And they will actually go in a completely different direction. But the problem is when they turn this way, their whole team is still going that way. And now they're going in this direction. And they're saying, yes, we are. And the people are going, yes, we are. And they're going in the wrong direction. And what that causes is ambiguity. Here's what's ambiguity. Have somebody outside the organization that nobody knows do like a secret shopper. You want this person to talk to all the people that are working with you and ask them one question. What is the vision of the company? What is the company really supposed to do? If you find that you've got a company of 10 and they each give a different response, there's ambiguity in the company, which means nobody actually knows where you're going. That's a sign that the role of the leader needs to be worked on. Not just that, if the leader continues to lead people in a directionless area, and they say, let's go this way, you know what, that's not really working, let's go this way. You know what, I think we start a new project, let's go that way. And they keep changing. What happens is the people following them begin to become passive. Because they say this, you know what, I actually don't know what direction we're going in. I think I'll just sit down and wait until the leader figures it out. Because they don't want to go this way if the leader's going that way, because then they'll be the only one and then they'll fail. I wonder if anybody's ever felt like that before. You know what's really funny is if you're an entrepreneur and you have your own business and you're not a good leader, you'll get up in the morning and have a whole bunch of things to do, but at the end of the day, you actually don't know what you accomplished. Number B, startup fatigue. Wearing out the staff launching new programs. Okay, leaders love startups. They love it. It just gets them excited to be entrepreneurial. And so they'll do this. We are going to do this because this is the base of our company. We are going to do this. And we're excited about this. And we've been doing this for year after year. For the last 5 years, we've been working on this. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to start a second project. And that's very exciting. And so the leader will tell their whole staff, we're going to start this thing right here. And then they'll start to do this. And everybody's behind them. And in the middle of the startup project, the leader will say, you know what, I think I want to do this too. And when they do that, what happens is they've taken all of their team's momentum that is going in this direction, and they're using that energy up, and to start something new means that they're actually going to burn out their team because they're doing too many new projects too quickly. Leaders are known at times for getting excited about the next big idea and not completing the one that they're working on so they don't burn out their team. If you're a leader and you're an entrepreneur, it's like saying this: I have a great idea about marketing. I'm going to do marketing. Oh, I'm going to start a new product. And I'm going to finish my services, but I'm not quite done with some of my policies and procedures. You're fragmented in the way that you lead your own organization, because whatever is most exciting is what you want to focus on next, instead of actually completing what you're supposed to be doing. Lastly, over-exaggeration, setting emotional goals too high. You see, managers set goals that they believe can be obtained, while leaders set goals they know cannot be obtained. And the reason why that is leaders are driven to accomplish the unaccomplishable. They love to set impossible goals because they know that that's what drives them to produce is a goal they can't reach. And every leader that you attract into your organization feels the same. Give me a bigger goal that let me shoot for the stars, I'll hit the moon. At least I can hit the moon. And that's how they think. And the great part about that is if you get a whole bunch of leaders together, they'll be missing lots of goals, but they'll be doing bigger and better things than everybody else. However, all the people in your company that are more managerial, they are demotivated by this. Because every time there's a huge goal and a huge vision that the visionary leader has painted this grand picture, all the people that cannot possibly even do half that are realistic in their approach, are all demotivated by that goal. And they say this: why are we doing this? This is just demotivating me. So half the people are excited in the room to do something bigger than themselves, and the other half are demotivated, saying it's not realistic. Why even try? We're going to fail before we start because we know we can't do it. I wonder if you, as a manager, have ever popped the bubble of excitement as a leader. And leaders, I wonder if you ever criticized managers saying you don't have enough belief in the company when it had nothing to do about belief. So therefore, what I'm challenging you in this first session is to ask the question, are you a manager or are you a leader? And do you see the benefits of both, and that they're both equal, and that you actually need them both to take your company to the next level? It's very interesting when you talk with a lot of corporate managers and corporate leaders, they talk about the same things. If you get a bunch of corporate managers, they talked about the new policies that they just implemented. They talked about how every person is in their place and they love their job. If you talk to leaders, it's about the next new prototype they're developing and how they're going to market it, how this is going to revolutionize the world. It's like two different languages that both need to be inside the company. Which one are you? And where do you most struggle? And do you have somebody in your organization that can help you to take the company to the next level? Some of the frustrating parts is aligning terms and positions. And this is a great one. There are different titles for different positions that have to do with whether or not you're a leader or you're a manager. And here's one of them, is where is the executive director? See, and an executive director is actually in the role of a leader. When you start to talk with other executive directors, they have a vision for the company. They're taking the company there, but it's nothing like the managing director. The managing director actually does the day-to-day operations. So what happens is, if you can't find in here the position of leader and manager and what they do, you're going to frustrate everyone around you. Because you're going to try to do everything at one time, and so are they. See, it's almost like this. The leader and the manager are supposed to be complementary. If this is a manager and this is a leader, all of this is the responsibility of the leader. All of this is responsibility of the manager. But this is when they cross, and this is where the blending takes place. Now, when that blending takes place, what's frustrating in here is that the leader doesn't know which part they're supposed to do, and the manager doesn't know what part they're supposed to do, and therefore, how do you take the blame when it fails, or how do you actually take the credit when it succeeds? See, the clearer that you are in your mind of who you are, the clearer your role is so that you know when you're crossing over the line into somebody else's role. So if you have a marketing person who is a leader, then you recognize that they're actually another person here. And that this is all their responsibility, and then they bleed into here. Here's a salesperson. Here's a product development person. R&D. Productions. Here is graphics a lot. So what takes place is the organization should become very clear with the job descriptions, which role every person is supposed to take and which side they fit on. When that happens, it gets clear on what they're supposed to fulfill and whether or not you can congratulate them or hold them accountable if they succeed or fail. Because so many times, a company will do something and nobody knows who takes the credit for it because everybody was doing it. And see, when that happens, it's so blended, you can't figure out who's doing what and where your position is. President, CEO is typically a leader. President, CEO is typically a leader. Not always, because you can be a president and be a manager, but typically that's what it is. And then you have a COO, and CFO is usually a manager because it's more process-based. And then, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of terms that have nothing to do with anything. When somebody says, I'm a founder of a company, you have no idea whether or not that person is a manager or a leader. The person said, I'm a COO. Well, I'm not sure. I think it's a manager. I'm not sure. CIO. There's a whole bunch of names like director and IT specialist, a manager of something. And what happens is it all gets confused because nobody actually knows what the terms mean. And today, you can make up your own term for whatever you want, and you can be creative. I've seen so many new terms in the marketplace. But my point is this, is that the clearer that you are about whether or not you're a manager or a leader, the clearer you are inside, the easier it is to hire the right people to help you do what you're not supposed to be doing. So if you're a leader, what I want you to do is I want you to never again criticize managers for being different than you. Don't criticize them because they are not motivated by your high goals, by your high visions. Don't criticize them because they work at a slower pace than you, because they're more filled with excellence because they want it done right. If you're a manager, don't criticize leaders anymore. Don't criticize them because they actually talk sometimes faster than they think. Don't criticize them for their high and lofty goals, saying that they'll never be able to reach them, and pop the bubble of excitement that they have. And don't say because you do things that are the right way, that they can't do things their own right way too. You know, I'll never forget when I was talking with our managing partner, James Rice, in South Africa, and we were developing a seminar together, and I share this story quite a bit because it's always left a deep impression on me. And we were developing the Creating Momentum seminar, the workshop, and we had 7 days. We were up in a cabin way up in Christmasmere in South Africa. And halfway through the week, we were working on a concept. And he said to me, David, I don't feel that you have integrity. And you could have blown me over with a feather. I said, James, where is this coming from? He said, I've had a problem I've been wrestling with for months, and I think we got to talk about it. And so we talked. Now, James is a manager, and I'm a leader. And I said to James, I know what your definition is of integrity, but you don't know what my definition is. And then he said, okay, what's my definition? I said, James, your definition of integrity is a person who does what they say. And he said, that's right. I said, I can never fulfill your definition of integrity. Do you know why? And he said, no. I said, because as a leader, I'm also an extrovert, which means that I am an external verbal processor. I constantly discuss with you as the manager all these concepts, all these ideas, because I want to bounce them off you and then figure out which ones we actually should implement and which ones are just not good ideas. So I'm constantly talking to you about all these ideas. I said, James, I guarantee you, in your mind, you've been keeping a track of all these things I've been saying, wondering if I was going to ever keep my word that I would do them. And he said, yeah. I said, would you like to know what my definition of integrity is? He said, yes. I said, my definition of integrity is that we double our business in the next 12 months. And he almost fell off the chair. He said, David, how can that be integrity? I said, because how can we stand up in front of other people and tell them, we will double your revenue of your company if we do not do that on a month-by-month, year-by-year basis? That's integrity for me. I can't stand up in front of people and tell them we can help them grow if we can't grow ourselves. Therefore, from our 5th year anniversary, we've grown by 1,000% in the last 5 years. I am thrilled because I feel that we have integrity, not just because James does what he says, but because I do what I say as well. It's different. You see, in the end, it's when a great leader and a great manager come together and work together as partners that they can accomplish things they couldn't possibly accomplish together. There is nothing impossible for you to do if you have the right team. And if you have people that believe in you and believe in the company and are in the right role, and their motives are to help other people, you're going to have a fantastic year. We look forward to seeing you in part 2 of this session, because it's going to be even more intriguing to you when you find out what the real definition between a leader and a manager really are. Welcome to Session 2 here at the Global Equipping Center's Executive Coaching Program. We're talking about management versus leadership, and in Part 2, we're going to talk about descriptions that create alignment. We had a very interesting discussion here in Chicago, Illinois, here at the Barrington Area Chamber of Commerce, about what happens when you're a leader, but you have to fulfill a managerial role. And I want to just take a couple moments and talk about DISC personalities, and to help some of you clarify this a little bit fine-tuning about what this looks like. So for those of you that know anything about DISC, you can research this later, but you have on the left side, you have, if you remember, task, and on the right-hand side, you have the word people. We have this in an entire one-day workshop, an executive workshop. It means everybody on this side of the line is task-oriented. What that means is they find fulfillment by the number of boxes that they check on a day-to-day basis. This also is how they see people. They see people as tasks. So therefore, they will say something like this: yes, I would like to have this meeting with this person. That's another task that they check off. And they think in tasks, and they accomplish tasks, and they're fulfilled when they're being productive in accomplishing the tasks. When you're a people-oriented person, that's how you become productive, through people. The way that you get to task is you have your team that accomplishes it together to accomplish the tasks. These people are driven to be with people. They get filled by people. These people tend to get filled by being alone. When you have a line in the middle, you have the word active on top. So everybody above this line is active. If you're an active person, it means you like caffeine, usually. You are caffeine. And this means that you like to have things going all the time. So if you actually have a personality that's in these top 2 quadrants, you are very busy all the time. In fact, you'll accomplish more being active than most people will in a lifetime. Now on the bottom, you have something called passive. This is not a negative term, it's just a descriptive term. It means that these people are slower paced individuals. They pace themselves. These are marathon people, these are sprinters. These people like to go fast, these people actually like to finish the race. Now, in this quadrant, you have the word D, I, S, and C. And that is DISC, D-I-S-C. In this top quadrant, you have the word dominant, which means that they are in the task-oriented box and the active-oriented box. And this person has a lot of tasks going on at one time. These people are huge producers. Your I is your influencer. An influencer is also just as active as a D, but they're active with people, not with tasks. So these people are able to run with a lot of teams to accomplish a lot of results. And they have a lot of friends in their organization. These people love friends and are motivated by being with their friends. The bottom person is steady. And they're also a people-oriented person, but they're more passive. These are your more support people. These are wonderful people for customer service. When you have somebody really angry, let's say a dominant person, is really angry because it was a horrible purchase that they got and they're angry and they call up the helpline ready to chew somebody out, and a high S woman answers the phone. She'll say, "Sir, tell me your problems. I'm here for you. How can we make this better?" And these people make the world a better place. They also are driven toward people, and they're more passive, and they care about deeper relationships because they're extremely loyal. These people right here are cautious. Cautious. They are also more passive in their characteristics, but they're task-oriented. These are your accountants right here. These are the people who are great administrators. And they like and they care about the things that are being done correctly. Now, this is so important. At the key, at the crux of every great manager is a cautious person. If you have a lot of cautious in you, or a high C, then what this means is you have the qualities of a great manager. If you're a CD or a CS, then these are the areas that make great managers. And the exact opposite is true with leadership. The great leader starts as an influencer and can go to an ID or an IS because they're very influential and they're able to recruit people and motivate them to do what the organization needs them to do. Now, if you find that you have actually taken the test of a manager or a leader and you found that you're 50-50, here's what this means. It means that you have some of what it takes to be a leader and some of what it takes to be a manager. See, some of the best managers we've ever seen are people that are below this line because they care about the people being in the right place, being trained at the right time, so that the organization grows effectively and efficiently. And these people are visionary. So if you say this, I can be a leader or a manager, you're right. Everybody can be a leader or a manager at the same time. The question is this: which one do you tend to gravitate to, and which area do you tend to be drained in? You see, if you're really honest with yourself, you can be a leader or a manager, and you can try to do both. But you're going to find that whatever your personality type you have, that you're going to gravitate to one or the other more naturally, that you are actually, you say, it's easy for me to be a manager. It's easy for me to actually work with processes and procedures. It's easier for me to make things better and improve them. Now you might say, you know what, I'm actually not interested in that. When I have to do that, I can do it, but that's not really who I am. I really like to do big things. And I like to recruit a lot of people. And I like to go and shoot after the stars and hit the moon. That's who I am. All right, our challenge for you is this. Don't be hard and fast on this. This is something that is a discovery process. You can't just pigeonhole everybody and say this is who you are and that's all you'll ever be. Our point is this. is you tend to be one or the other. And when you figure out who that is, and if you say, I'm a great manager, then here's our encouragement. Make sure that you employ, you recruit a great leader with you to help you go where you need to go. And if you're a great leader, if you don't have a great manager, you're going to have some big problems in the future, because managers make sure that the big problems don't even take place in the future. That's what we're trying to share. All right, so let's look at where we're at with the overview. We've already talked about the introduction. We've already talked about, are you a leader or a manager? We talked about poor management versus poor leadership. And now we're going to talk about terminology, the dilemma, some reminders, and the conclusion. All right, this is the most important part of session 1 and session 2, and that is the terminology of management. Now, this research has taken over 20 years of reading books on management and leadership. And what's happened is there are 5 main areas of a manager that are separate from a leader, and we're going to look at those practically to see which one you fall into. So let's take a look at the word manager. The purpose of management. In your notes, the first fill-in is to achieve the goals of the organization using a realistic approach through the placement of people and oversight of processes in order to produce an efficient organization. The key fill-ins, number 1 is goal, number 2 is realistic, number 3 is placement, number 4 is processes, and number 5 is efficient. Let's talk about what managers talk about. I want you to imagine if you got 5 managers of a company in, and they actually produce cars. They have a car company, and they produce, let's say, 1,000 cars a year, which would be very low for OEM. And what that means is when they get together, guess what they're going to talk about? There's a certain word in manufacturing called lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing is the concept. It's based a little bit on Kaizen, but it's based upon the truth that you can always improve what you have. And so what they're going to talk about is, how do we improve the processes that we have of how we're building cars? How do we make this better? And then they'll ask this question: is there any way that we can do this to actually save more money this next year? And they'll talk about saving money. And they'll say, you know what, this guy wheels this cart from here halfway across over there to get to that one guy to hit that button to do this. Is there a better way to make it more efficient? And they will ask questions, and they will try to improve until they find ways how to save money, how to make it more efficient, how to create more lean concepts that make more sense, that saves the company possibly a huge sum of money. And they're talking about all these things because they're looking at, how do we make the entire company run like a well-oiled machine? They also care about that the right people are in the right place in the company. Because here's the reason why. If you've got the right person in the wrong place, that's inefficient, and that drives a manager nuts. Because they say, this can't work with me. That person's in the wrong place. I'm going to move this person here, upskill him. He's going to produce 3 times more than that person will, and then they'll fix the problem. So it's not just that they have a great team that they're managing. It's that the right people are in the right place. If a manager sees that great sums of money are being wasted in the organization and the wrong people are in the wrong positions, it will drive the manager up the wall. So therefore, this definition, I want you to focus on these. Number 1, it's the goals of the organization. The goals are the practical steps of how to accomplish what they're supposed to accomplish. They need to know. If you walk into a manager's office and you say this to them, I want you to do better this year than last year, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. Well, how am I going to do better? No, just do better. No. In which area? All areas. It doesn't work with a manager. You need to walk into your manager's office and say this: I want you to make our assembly line in this section I would like to save $100,000 here. I would like, there are 5 people that are not in the correct positions or they have a bad attitude. I need them to either leave the organization or get their attitude right. I want you to solve these 5 people in your department. I'm going to give you 10 goals to accomplish over the next 12 months. So if you give those to them, they will surpass them and meet every single one. But they have to be something, and here's the key, they have to be realistic. Because the moment that they feel that there's a goal that is no longer realistic, that is now a pie in the sky, is airy-fairy, whatever you want to call it, but if it's not realistic, you lose them because they feel that that's a lack of integrity. Why would they say that they're going to accomplish something they know is not realistic? Lastly, it's the oversight of processes. This is extremely important for a manager. A manager wants to know that if they're going to do this project, that the processes that have been established actually work. They want to know that this is the way that we actually run our company, and this is the processes to ensure that we achieve the same result at the end of the day. They don't want different results from the same process. They want the process to drive the results to completion. Now, when you think about a manager then, if the manager says this, I love working for the company. This is an awesome company. Why is it awesome? Because I have goals that I can realistically attain. Everybody in the company is exactly where they're supposed to be. This is exciting because all of the processes are producing the results that we expect them to produce, and we're saving money, and I'm making the company more efficient every day. That is a happy manager. Now, what about a leader? Well, the exact opposite is true for a leader, and that's the next definition. The purpose of leadership is to accomplish the vision of the organization, not the goals, the vision, with an optimistic attitude, not a realistic one, through the recruitment of people, not their placement, and an oversight of relationships, not processes, in order to produce an effective, not an efficient, organization. So the key fill-ins is vision, optimistic, recruitment, relationships, and effective. So let's talk about what it is to be a leader. A leader has to have a clear and compelling vision of what they're supposed to do with the organization. And by the way, many times, it doesn't matter if anybody else likes the vision, but they have to like it because they're the leader. So if this is the vision, and this is where a leader's going to go, they have to be excited about the vision. And here's the amazing part. A leader that is really excited about a great vision can inspire other people who never cared about the vision to come and join them in their vision. And I know because I've done it. So here's what happens is a vision is supposed to be compelling. It's supposed to be that say, wow, look at that. What's the vision of the Global Equipping Center? To take 1,000 businesses and to double their revenue in a 12-month time period. So that's what we want to do. That drives me. That is exciting. Every time another year comes by and we double another 3 to 5 companies, I say, you know what? We're 1 more company. We're 5 more companies. We're 10 more companies closer to our goal of reaching 1,000 companies that we've doubled. That's my passion. That's the vision. And I motivate people to come and join what we're doing because they have a passion and heart to grow other people's revenue and help them and their family and their business as well. The vision. Number 2, it's with an optimistic attitude. Notice it says optimistic and not realistic because leaders are typically not realistic. They're optimistic, which is why they're a leader. And let me share with you the difference. A realistic manager will say, how are you going to do this? An optimistic leader will say, I don't know how, but I promise you this much, we will. And they will accomplish things, not because they know how, but because they're so driven to accomplish a vision that nothing will stand in their way. When everyone tells this person that will fail, they say, no, it won't. And I have seen visions take a horrible idea and still make it successful because they were so optimistic about it that nothing stood in their way. If you're a leader, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, sometimes everyone in your personal and professional life thought that you didn't know what you were doing. They said this is going to fail miserably. and you said, you know what, it's not. I'm going to do this, and I believe in myself, and I believe in this so strongly that nothing will stand in my way, and I will accomplish this. And you did. And you know exactly who you are. Now, thirdly, it's you're optimistic about the vision and also about the recruitment of people. This is really important. A leader has to be surrounded by other people that they enjoy being with, because a leader loves to lead the team. You know what they say in leadership? If you're leading and there's no one following behind you, you're just taking a walk. And so many times, that's what leaders do. Leaders can't just take walks. As they're walking and they're trying to accomplish this vision, guess what they're doing? They're telling everybody else about it, saying, look what I'm going to come do. Come join me. And the next thing you know, they've got a whole bunch of people that have left what they were going to do, and they came and joined the leader because the leader recruited them because of how excited they were about the vision. Leaders are great recruiters, and sometimes to their own detriment. Because if you recruit too many people too quickly before you have the funds, what are you going to do? And the leader will say, I'll figure it out when I get there. Next, it's also of the oversight of relationships. Now, this is really important. This is not about processes. This is about people. You see, at the core of a leader, it's how effective they are in the organization with the relationships. You see, a leader cares that there's unity in the organization. They care that the people in the organization, that the customers on the outside of the organization actually work together, actually work in unity. And those relationships are important. And a leader takes it very personally when somebody leaves the company, because they say, I recruited that person, I trained the person, I want the person to stay here. And they take it personally because that's what leaders do. They care about the relationships. Lastly, they're not working for efficiency, they're working for effectiveness. Effectiveness is this: how quickly can I accomplish the vision? Not what is the best way, what is the way I can save the most money. It's how can I do this as quickly as possible? And many times, leaders will set a deadline that is so unrealistic, and everyone knows there's no way possible for the leader to do this. And you know what they'll do? They'll shatter the barrier of time and accomplish the vision before its deadline. And people will say, that's impossible. There's no way for you to do that. I'll never forget this. I was sitting in White River with one of our previous clients for 2 years, and I was sitting eating a wonderful dinner, and there were two very kind economists who were PhDs from Germany. And we were sitting there having a dinner, and they said to me, what do I do? And I said, I double people's revenue, and I double companies' revenue. And they began to tell me how that was impossible and began to quote different books and different sources, how that's impossible. And I said, well, I did it to this company. And they said, we don't believe you. And I said, I did it to this company. And they said, well, they don't believe me. And I said, Cheryl doubled her company this year, and she doubled it the year after that. And they said, no, we don't believe you. It's completely impossible based upon the truths of economics and the formulas that we have. It is impossible to do. And no matter what I said, and no matter how many, I said, you can call people. They said, we don't believe you. And the reason why they didn't is they were so realistic in their approach that they thought that I was lying to them because I was so excited about what I was doing. Which one are you? There is no right or wrong. It's just who you are. And if you say this, you know what? I have found that I'm actually an excellent manager. And I like being a manager. And you're right, David, I am extremely realistic. And I like saving money. I like being efficient. I like making sure that people are in the right places. I love processes. This is who I am. Then you know what? Be the best manager you can possibly be. Because the company that you're with, or the company that you're going to start, or the company that's going to hire you, will be glad to have you aboard. If you are really a leader, boy, you love to develop new visions. You are so excited about sharing all the ideas that you have. You love recruiting people. You are so effective in your position. You love building relationships. And you know how to run the organization effectively. If this is you, you need to make sure that you're in the role that nurtures you to be a better leader. regardless of which side you may be on, and it's not a clear line in many people's hearts and minds because of who they are and the roles that they had. But if you can say, I would rather be this one or this one, and pick one which is best for you, and then ask the question, who in your life do you need to recruit, that you need to place, that when you work with the person on the other side, 1 plus 1 actually equals 10,000. Because the momentum will be created at a next level because of you bringing along people that actually have the exact opposite skill mix of who you are. So, what's the dilemma? Well, there are 3 dilemmas. The first one is called leadership blending, leadership theories and management, and leadership calling. And these are the 3 that we're going to be discussing right now because it's a frustration for many people in the theory, in the theoretical, and also in the practical of how these create a dilemma in the marketplace. So let's look at the first one, leadership blending. Here's what it is. The dilemma about blending leadership and management is that neither position is the fill-in. Neither position will be clear on its objectives. Therefore, who is to blame or congratulate for a failure or a success? There is leadership blending. This is what it is. We want you in your role to develop the vision and accomplish the goals. We want you to be effective and efficient. We want you to spend the money, but then save the money. We want you to recruit the right people and then place the right people. And by the time they're done with their 40-page job description, you've got no idea how you're going to do both of these and do them equally with excellence. It is very difficult to fulfill this role with excellence. It's very difficult to fulfill this role with excellence. But if you blend it, it's impossible because these are very different. How are you supposed to spend money and save money at the same time? How are you supposed to make this better, but create this at the same time? And many people in their role as an entrepreneur and also in corporate have been extremely frustrated in their job position because they say this, no matter what I did, it was wrong because I couldn't do the other at the same time. So leadership blending is finding out that this position, if this is a clear position, and this is a clear position, and you find the people to fulfill it, they will be excellent in their roles. But if you blend them, you're going to find, many times you'll find a mediocre person that can do everything okay, but nothing really great. And that's a challenge. Next, look at this. Leadership is the very heart and soul of business management. That is leadership blending. You're talking about leadership and management in the same exact sentence. Here's another one. 1 Minute Manager says this, the real power in leadership today is influence, not authority, but it's on the 1 Minute Manager. So the concept is if you continue to blend these, guess what? Everybody thinks that they're a manager and everybody thinks they're a leader, and then when they're not fulfilled because they're trying to do everything, they don't know why. That's the problem with leadership blending. And number 2 is also the leadership theories. And this is important. This dilemma is about the current leadership theories that are positive and transformational, while management theories are more negative and transactional. When I was working on my PhD in organizational leadership for 2 years, I read book after book after book. And the books on leadership were positive. It was transforming your followers. It was really an amazing calling that you were supposed to have as a leader. However, once I came to the books on management, I found that it was on negativity. It was that managers were always solving problems. It was they were always doing something negative. It was that people don't want to be managed. It was always in the negative, and it was always transactional. It wasn't transformational. So here it was, is that a manager just tries to get people to do things and coerce them. And, well, if you're a leader, well, you persuade them. And so what I found was that the theorists that are developing the information on management and on leadership actually were not fair. It was not equal. It was management was low and leadership was high. Management was about problems and leadership was about solutions. And everything was completely the opposite instead of it being neutral. For instance, charismatic leadership theory, servant leadership theory, transformational leadership theory, all motivate any given person to become a leader, not a manager. So what's happened in the context is that many times people rush to be in the role of a leader who's really a manager because they've been so dissuaded against being a manager because of all the marketplace, which is the hype of a leader. And they've actually left what is very honorable, equally honorable. A manager and a leader, there is not a higher or lower. They are equal. And the moment that you take away the managers, the company will fall apart. The moment you take away the leaders, the company will fall apart. They're equally good. They're equally high. They're equally needed in the company. So what happens? Does this mean that the underlying antithesis of these three leadership theories mean that management is therefore filled with boring, arrogant, and stagnant managers? Because if you've got a charismatic leader who's a servant and is transformational, does that mean that all the managers are the exact opposite? Because there are no management theories like that. The management theories are boring. But the exciting is that you're a leader. So that's what happens with the theories. They're actually against management. And then lastly is this concept that leadership is actually a calling and management is not. So the dilemma of this conflicting concept is found in the underlying belief that leadership is a sought-after calling, here it is, for a unique and talented few, while management is a given position which can be fulfilled by the masses of inept. Because that's the way it's presented in the marketplace. Is, oh, there has to be almost like a scroll that unveils from the heavens. And it comes down and says, you have been born a leader. And now that you've been born a leader, you are unique. And you have a calling on your life. Oh, and then we have managers. Oh, and anybody can do that. Oh, anybody can fix those problems. Oh, that you don't even need a brain to do that. Because the company should really run itself. And we just manage the problems and manage the people and just make sure they stay in line. And because of that, guess what happens? The people who are actually excellent as managers have this little tiny hair of thought in the back of their head. Are they missing something? Shouldn't they be doing more? Why aren't they see a leader glorious riding a white horse in the sunset? And they say, why can't I be like that? You see, the bottom line is this. These people are equally as crucial to every company as these people. And it's just as high a calling to be a manager as it is to be a leader. And the best managers save the most money for the companies and create a level of integrity and excellence that leaders cannot produce. And leaders produce a level of excellence in visionary recruitment and excitement and motivation that managers cannot produce. You see, it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship when a manager and a leader come together for the benefit of the good of the company. It will be unstoppable in the marketplace. Don't believe, if you're a manager, that you have a lesser role than a leader. So, therefore, when management and theorists develop materials that are taught globally, they train others to believe that leadership is a high calling and management is only a position. And what I would challenge you with as clients of the executive coaching program is, regardless of what you have to do in your day-to-day, never ever despise either one of these. These are incredible roles, and you are having to fulfill both if you're an entrepreneur. You have to be a manager and you have to be a leader. But if you're actually lucky, like we are, then in the first year of your company, maybe you can hire somebody and say, come be a part of the team. And if you're a leader, you can find the best manager you could ever possibly imagine. Because that's who I found in James Rice. I found the best possible manager I have ever found on this earth. Somebody who is loyal, somebody who loves placing the right people. He loves efficiency, always is saving the money of the company. And I have the deepest respect for him. And you know what? He has the deepest respect for me in my role of leader of the company. And I couldn't do what I could do today without James. And he can't do what he could do today without me. So all I'm trying to say is this, is when you recognize who you are and you hire to who you're not, you will absolutely love your business. And until you do that, you are kind of in the treadmill of having to do everything for everyone until you can be able to afford to hire somebody like that. So, if you're in the gold level of the executive coaching program, you know that you are not required to do the following, but if you're in our platinum level, please make sure that you have turned in your book review information to your facilitator of your group. This next month, over the next 30 days, please read the Leadership Challenge of How to Make Extraordinary Things Happen in Organizations by Kouzes and Posner. As you know, all of our books you can either purchase online and have shipped to you. You can get the audio book or you can get the Kindle copy, and there's a free app for that as well. Secondly, you are to get one HBR Harvard Business Review article. I want you to read that and write that review. Please turn that in to your facilitator as well. And lastly, the last thing you want to turn in every given month is the Executive Coaching Program client interview. Please pick out one person in the room even now. Look around the room and pick one person that you want to interview for a half an hour to 45 minutes and print that out and interview that person, and may you take something away from that interview that can help you in your business. In conclusion, the unifying fact remains evident that leadership and management have differing focuses but function interdependently to produce outcomes that sustain integrity, vision, values, and wholeness while meeting the goals for which the organization was established. Secondly, leaders and managers have different skills, values, and personality. Also, their core focus is different in that managers are people who do things right, and leaders are people who do the right things. And lastly, in the end, a successful company will have an efficient manager and an effective leader who will work together to fulfill the vision of the organization with excellence. I want to share with you now about one of the most exciting times in my life was at the beginning of starting this 22nd company called the Global Equipping Center. And I'll never forget, I was giving a seminar down in Durban, South Africa. And after the first evening, I had a gentleman walk up to me and say to me, David, I want to ask you a couple questions. And he asked me a couple questions, and he said, how do you know who you are? And he asked questions that normal people wouldn't ask. And as he asked more questions, the more I realized this was going to be my first client for the executive coaching program in South Africa. After calling him 4 times and making an appointment, I finally completely sold this manager on joining the executive coaching program. He paid up front for a year and then decided that maybe one day we could do business together. And I said to him, I'm giving you a year. And he said, a year for what? I said, in 1 year, I want you to leave your job that you've been in for 17 years, and I want you to come and join me. Making the decision as a leader to recruit other people when you don't have any money is not a risk. It's a challenge. For every leader right now who is leading in a company, here's my question to you. What are you doing currently that's challenging you in the marketplace for you to grow in your role as a leader? Where do you need to go? What new vision do you need to develop that creates a new spark in you so that you can be the leader that you were called to be? You see, if leaders don't have something exciting to do, they begin to flounder and flail in the water because they say, why even swim anymore? I'm not motivated to go the distance. When's the last time you've recruited somebody as a leader into your organization and upskilled them and trained them and got them a part of your team? You see, if you have not been recruiting people to become a part of your company, you probably have stopped leading effectively because you're saying, you know what, it's not the right time. It's never the right time when the right person comes along. Let me say that again. It's never the right time when the right person comes along. Your answer is always yes. You'll figure it out with the person. Be honest with them. Tell them that, listen, this is the wrong time, but you're the right person. Let's see if we can make this happen, and do everything you can to make it happen. You also need to ask yourself the question, what are the size of the goals that you have? You see, if you're a leader and you've had a really difficult last couple of years and you've been beaten down in the marketplace, you're going to set your vision lower so that you don't fail. It's time for you to set your sights higher, to get optimistic back once again, and actually raise your level of belief in yourself, in your team, in your organization, in your products and services that you can go where you need to go. If you're a manager, you need to recognize that as the highest calling for you to fulfill. There's not a higher calling for you than to be a manager. And that companies that don't have people like you struggle the entire lifelong of the company, and many companies go under financially, not because they don't have a great leader, it's because they don't have a great manager. You see, there's nothing more refreshing than to walk into a company that is so well run because the manager knows how to manage the company. There's nothing more exciting to a manager when every person says to that manager, I am so thankful I can work for you because you know what? When I come to work in this environment, there's nothing but peace and productivity. That's the signs of a great manager. Here's my question to you. What can you do over these next 12 months to make your organization more efficient? What can you do to save more money this year than last year? And what are you going to do with the money that you save to make your company and to take it to the next level in its evolution? You see, for every great manager, there is a group of people that are even more thankful. Because if you've ever worked in a company where there was a horrible manager, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody was in the wrong place. There was spending money all over the place. It was horrible. And there was all kind of processes that were all broken, and there were no policies whatsoever. But when a great manager is involved, all those issues seem to be blown away, and then everything becomes clear. Regardless of who you are, it is our belief that as you try to do both as an entrepreneur, or you're a leader or a manager in your company, in these next 12 months, you're going to experience a great, outpouring of joy by really understanding who you are and being in the role that you're supposed to be. Therefore, it's our belief in you that as you become a better manager or a better leader, that you will actually find the fulfillment that you've been looking for. May you lead or manage your team in such a way that they're thankful to be in your company, and it's an honor for us to serve you in this next year.
Not all managers are, boring, blah. And not all leaders are so crazy and all over the place, flighty, that they can't, accomplish anything.
No. That was humor.
Yeah, well, I know, but you really, there are people that are, part of both, and people that have to be both.
Oh, yeah.
For myself, I view myself as a leader. But I was in information technology for 30 years. I also was trained as a project manager, and so I had to do that kind of balancing.
Yes.
And believe me, I brought in people that did the accounting and that kind of stuff, the most boring stuff in the world. But, you need to understand both sides.
You do.
And
appreciate both sides.
Right. So, it's not black and white, like you said. People are not just leaders or just managers. There's overlap.
Right.
Because I don't know that there's many companies that give you the luxury of being only one.
That's right.
No.
But you usually have a tendency towards one or the other.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
And you have to understand what your tendencies are.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
But I think the tendency of too many companies is to not realize there's a difference and just sort of do both.
Right.
So there's a need to recognize that it's not being recognized, and so there's something falling through the cracks and not getting done in these arguments that keep going on.
Which means then if the person has to do both equally, and they love this part and hate this part, they will never be completely satisfied in their role. And a lot of people are not satisfied in their role because they're saying this role isn't completely who I am. It's partially who I am, and I got to do these other things which are nothing like I am.